Today I want to dive into a specific topic about natural pest control. And I want to talk about a specific type of insect that is kind of a known predator of other insects, but it hasn't necessarily been very well studied or anything like that in the agricultural community. It's not one of those beneficial insects that you can just order on demand typically, but it is an interesting insect and it can have some pronounced benefits on the landscape, and I want to talk about that today. Alright, so here we have the robber fly. It is also called the assassin fly. So don't confuse that with the assassin bug, which is an unrelated, totally different type of beneficial insect. But the assassin fly and the robber fly, for some reason, I often, for myself, speaking strictly for myself, I often confuse the term soldier fly with the term robber fly, and those are two completely different insects as well. The soldier fly in its larval stage is used by people in a similar way to vermicomposting, right? Where that larva of the soldier fly will break down organic matter like food scraps and produce a potentially beneficial material for gardening, for agriculture, fertilizing, those types of things. So this assassin fly, or the robber fly, comes from the Acylidae insect family. And like I said, this is a beneficial insect. It will go after, prey upon different pest insects, right? It may also go after some other beneficials because it is a generalist predator, but it can really go after some of these insect pests that we'll get into in a minute. So how this process kind of begins, and maybe that's not a fair way to say it, it's like chicken or the egg, but the adults will lay their eggs in the soil, right, or near the soil in this organic matter or organic material, and this larva. These will survive through the winter and will really emerge in the springtime. And eventually they will morph into adults, pupate, and such. But when they're in their larval form, they also go after some pest insects, right? So these are flies that are predatory in both their larval and adult stages, right? So that's important. So just some key identifying characteristics that kind of stand out in general. When you look at this insect, it has 3 pairs of long bristly legs. Of course, having the 6 legs is a classic arthropod type situation there. And those legs are kind of elongated out from the body. And they have 2 really large compound eyes with a hairy facial area, almost kind of looks like a beard between the eyes, and they have a sharp and pointed proboscis, right, like a needle-like beak type thing that's emerging out of that beard type thing. And so that's what they will use to catch their prey, bite into them, basically. And then they will inject this saliva and then consume the insect, right? Also, just as a caution, these insects, the robber fly can in fact bite humans. However, it is not particularly aggressive towards humans, and so it's not like actively going after humans. It's only if you like really kind of go out of your way to disturb it that it might retaliate and bite you back. And it can be kind of a painful bite because they do kind of envenomate a little bit, so that can kind of add a little bit of extra punch, so to speak. Otherwise, they're really not really a threat to humans. They just kind of do their own thing. I'm out there in the garden. They're always kind of flying around. I've had them land on me, right? Don't smack them or aggravate them. Just kind of like, you can just kind of brush them off a little, gently. They'll take the hint, get the message, and will just kind of fly off and find somewhere else to land. But they are pretty quick, and they can startle you, right? Because they're kind of, sizable insects too. They're not like a tiny little fly. So then the question becomes, well, what do they eat? And how can we kind of attain or maintain healthy populations of these assassin flies on the local landscape? Of course, first and foremost, we have to consider the food source. So what insects do these flies consume? So they will prey after other insects. They are a generalist predator, so they will consume a wide variety of different invertebrate species, including, but probably not limited to at all, grasshoppers, Japanese beetles, moths, flies, and then bees and wasps. Right now, bees and wasps can kind of be a bit unfortunate because these provide beneficial services to the the agricultural community, and these bees can include bumblebees, honeybees, and probably other bees as well. But some of the really heavy hitters that can be huge issues in the agricultural community can be grasshoppers, Japanese beetles, moths, those types of things. Even certain types of flies, especially in their larval stage, can consume crop seeds or sprouting seeds in the soil, reducing germination rates of certain crops that we might be trying to grow. So the soldier fly can be very beneficial in this respect of helping to control some of these populations. They may also go after various species of plant hoppers, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's predominantly in their adult stages, right? Now, in their larval stages, they'll go after some other insects, right? Some of these are going to be more soft-bodied, such as various types of root feeders. So that could be grubs, beetle larvae, wireworms, and other kind of soft-bodied insects, or insects that are in a soft-bodied life stage, even. So what are some other practices that we can either do or not do or reduce to help maintain and have these healthy populations on the landscape? So one thing is going to be to reduce tillage, or really use tillage judiciously, right? Because that's going to stir up the soil profile, and if the soldier, the robber fly, is in the soil in its larval stage at that point, it may disrupt that life cycle. It may directly kill the larva from all that intense agitation, or it may just substantially disrupt that environment. And so it may cause some complications with having some of these healthy populations. So we can be mindful of when we till, right? So certain times of the year, maybe not so much in the fall to bury any crop residue, and maybe not early in the spring, definitely not over the winter time, obviously, right? So if we're tilling when these larvae are not in the soil, that doesn't necessarily directly negatively affect the robber fly populations quite as nearly as much, right? And then we can also utilize certain types of tillage, right? Like strip tilling, having areas or strips that are untilled that can foster this habitat for the robber fly. And we may have strips next to that strip that are tilled, right? So we can kind of have a little bit more of balance on that landscape, and where it's not completely tilled and it's also not tilled at all. Also, certain life stages of the robber flies, such as egg laying and such things like that, may require some additional food source. Definitely there's a lot of room for more research on this robber fly, so we can kind of understand more of its life cycle and what it kind of needs on that landscape to survive. But it is potentially very beneficial to have different types of pollinating plants, or pollinator plants, on the landscape, right? That can produce that pollen and nectar that these robber flies may need to be able to live and to be able to reproduce successfully, right? So what are these plants? We don't really know, right? So we kind of have to get out there and kind of observe what flowers do we find the robber fly hanging out on, and things like that, like what species of plants. But generally speaking, there are different types of umbelliferous plants, or plants in the aster family also as well, that can generally just be very good for a lot of different pollinators, right? Think of pale Indian plantain, goldenrod, carrot when it's in flower, fennel, parsnip. Those are from the carrot family. Joe pie weed is another one, boneset, maybe even some flowering mints as well, right? Like, spearmint, woolly mint, whatever it may be. And just having a diversity of these beneficial pollinator plants on the landscape is probably going to be our best bet overall. And then the last point here is to avoid the application of broad spectrum insecticides as much as possible. This could be carbamates, organophosphates, neonicotinoids, some of these others that may negatively affect survival or the population numbers of the robber fly. So cutting down on some of these insecticides like that can be beneficial. And when I say broad spectrum, I mean the insecticides are going to affect negatively a wide range of different insect species or invertebrate species, right? So it's not just going to attack or kill the target insect, which maybe some pest insect on the landscape, just aphids as a totally random example, right? If I'm spraying for aphids, for example, and I apply a broad spectrum insecticide, it knocks out the aphids, but it may also knock out the ladybugs that eat those aphids, right? Because a lot of these things work on basic mechanisms in the insect's body, right? Some of them may target the nervous system, and that can encompass, and its mode of action can encompass it affecting a whole bunch of different insects, different species, different types, that kind of thing. Thank you so much for checking out this video on the robber fly or the assassin fly. It's a very intriguing generalist predator, so it will of course go after some of those other beneficial pollinators like bees and wasps, but it can do a whole lot of good with going after some of these common pests, right? Like the moths, the grasshoppers, right? That's a huge one. And some of those other insects as well. And of course, with getting out there in nature, finding this fly and observing what it does, what it eats, we may be able to find even more different types of insects that this beneficial predator insect may consume. So in the meantime, I'm going to continue to work to foster a healthy environment for this robber fly in my garden. And thank you so much for checking out this video. Please consider both subscribing and or becoming a member. Joining as a member on this channel can really help out the channel quite a bit. And thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.